Coming up, previewing the ALCS and power ranking the top 10 most disappointing Diamondbacks on today's Locked On Diamondbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Listening to who? The always charismatic host of this podcast, Millard Thomas. I'm a multimedia journalist and I'm a graphic designer, so please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com. On there you can see all my latest work, from my packages to my articles to my photos and my graphic design. If you want to see more content by me, just follow me on Twitter at CreatorThomas24 for my personal account, or just look up Locked On Diamondbacks on both Twitter, Instagram for the podcast handle. And of course, we're on YouTube as well. Follow us on there, Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube as well. Thank you for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free and available on all platforms, so please continue to tell your friends. Today's podcast, we're going to be power ranking the top 10 most disappointing Dbacks from the 2022 season. But first, I want to talk a little bit about the ALCS. And before we even get to there, I just want to say happy NBA season day. I don't know if you guys care about basketball. I do, so happy NBA season day. This is the best time for sports. It is the month of October. I believe it's the greatest month in human history. My birthday is Monday, October 24th, so you guys can wish me a happy early birthday on Twitter if you want, at CreatorThomas24 for my personal account. It's also Halloween, spooky season. It's fall season. The leaves start to change. It becomes sweater weather. And a day like Thursday, we're going to have football, we're going to have baseball, we're going to have basketball, and we're going to have hockey. October is the greatest month by far. And speaking of October, one of the reasons it's the greatest month is because of October baseball, because we saw the Yankees take down the Cleveland Guardians in Game 5, and that game had huge implications, more so for the Yankees than I think the Cleveland Guardians. Because look, this Cleveland Guardians team is one of the youngest in Major League Baseball, if not the youngest. And seriously, like, looking at the teams that were left entering today's game, the Cleveland Guardians were probably the least talented team of any team left in the postseason. Like, their offense isn't that great. They have to really manufacture runs. I like their rotation, but it's not like the deepest rotation after Bieber and Tristan McKenzie. Their bullpen is really good, but their lineup is not like stacked. Like, I like Jose Ramirez and Andres Jimenez, but they don't have superstars up and down their lineup. So if the Yankees lost that game 5, it would have been huge implications for them. But they were able to take care of business. I felt like the Yankees were going to win that Game 5 once I saw them make a last-minute switch to Nestor Cortez. I thought Terry Francona was going to be the manager that came out and, made all the right executions, made all the tactical plays. But no, it was Aaron Boone that actually looked like the better manager in that Game 5, because he decided to go with Nestor Cortez on 3 days of short rest instead of Jameson Taillon. And guess what? We're going to talk about how that might mess up the Yankees in the next series. But to get to the next series, you would have had to first get through Cleveland in the ALDS. And so Aaron Boone was not leaving anything to chance. Nestor Cortez was the Yankees' second best pitcher this year and one of the better pitchers in the American League this season. Kind of a revelation for the Yankees. And Nasty Nestor, as a lot of people call him, was pretty good today. 5 innings, gave up like 1 earned run. Like, he was really good for the Yankees on the short rest. He was able to step up in a big moment. And like, it's the kind of performance where postseason heroes are made and remembered. Because look, I don't want to turn this into a Mike Trout rant, but just overall, like, the greatest players in Major League Baseball, at least in the regular season, that only holds so much weight to me until I also see you do something on the postseason stage. Like, it's cool to see the Mike Trouts and DeGroms go off in the regular season, but I want those guys to have playoff moments, because I think that's how you remember someone's career. I think that's how you cement your legacy as an all-time great. Not by just what you do in the regular season. Look, Mike Trout, DeGrom, those are still Hall of Fame talents. Those are still all-time great players, but there's a different level of the all-time greats and then the legend. Those guys, to me at least, those guys won't be legends to me. I don't care if Mike Trout's going to finish his career as the greatest regular season pitcher of all time or player. I don't care if Jacob DeGrom finishes as the greatest regular season pitcher of all time. I care about also what you do in the postseason. And Nestor Cortez was able to step up in a big way. Also, Giancarlo Stanton. He's a guy who's won an MVP before in the regular season. He's someone that has had some ups and downs in his career, but always in the postseason, he comes through for his teams. You go look at his postseason numbers, he crushes in the playoffs. And so, yes, he sometimes struggles with health during the regular season. Yes, sometimes he might go through a little power droughts during the regular season, or you're like, he's striking out a little bit too much for me right now. But you pay Giancarlo Stanton the money that he's getting paid right now because he comes through for you in the biggest moments, and he started this game with a 3-run bomb. In the playoffs, I'm taking Stan over guys like Mike Trout because Stan is a guy with proven playoff track record, and guys like I don't want to keep making the Mike Trout comparison because I don't want to hate on Mike Trout. I feel like I come off too much as a Mike Trout hater. He's just the easiest guy to pick on and use for these comparisons. So I respect the Giancarlo Stantons of the world who actually get it done in the postseason. And we even saw Aaron Judge get a home run today, which was much needed because he's been kind of struggling this postseason. And he still wants to get that big contract. Well, guess what? If Aaron Judge had the kind of regular season he had this year and then did nothing in the postseason, and the Yankees lost his game 5 with Aaron Judge doing nothing in the postseason, then it's going to be a lot harder to justify a really big contract for Aaron Judge. But that wasn't the case. The Yankees were able to get it done. Nasty Nestor was able to do it. You had your 2 all-star outfielders hit home runs, but the Yankees did lose Aaron Hicks in this game, who pretty much does nothing offensively, but he's like their most reliable defensive center fielder that they have. So that could be a big, miss for them throughout the rest of the series, but we'll see. Like, if you lose Aaron Hicks, like, I'm not crying for you. I don't think it really moves the needle on your championship equity. Like, I don't want to hear one Yankees fan make an excuse that they lost the World Series because they lost Aaron Hicks. That just is a BS reason to me, because looking ahead to this Yankees versus Astros series, I think if you had to make a case as to why the Astros are going to win outside of, whether you just think they're better or not, you could just look ahead to this game 5 that the Yankees versus Guardians just played, because the Yankees in that game 5 made the last minute switch to Nestor Cortez instead of Jameson Taillon. And now that really puts them back and sets them, that really doesn't start them off on the right foot in this ALCS, because now we got Justin Verlander versus Jameson Taillon in that game 1. Maybe Garrett Cole starts game 2. I'd have to see how it plays out. But you're just starting just a not very good pitcher against the guy who's going to win the Cy Young. And Verlander wasn't great in his first postseason start. But, I don't think every start he has in the playoffs is going to be bad. And now if you're the Yankees, I hope Garrett Cole's starting game 2. Because if he's not, if you're the Yankees, you don't like the idea of starting down 1-0 in a series. And then again, you look at this Astros team, they're going to be super well rested, and we know they have a deep rotation. They barely used the Urquides, the Christian Javier's, and the Luis Garcias in the last series. And now this Astros team, after that 18-inning marathon that they had, they were able to get some extra rest because of the weather and the rain delays in New York and the fact that they swept the Seattle Mariners. This Astros team is going to be fully healthy and fully rested. Now, for the Yankees, at least they don't have to, the Yankees now do have to travel to Houston for this ALCS game 1. So Yankees, after playing in that game 5 do or die in New York, now they have to travel to Houston and the very next day get another championship series going. That just puts them at a disadvantage, I think. I think all the momentum right now, well, let me say it like this. If you want to make a case for the Yankees, maybe you do make a momentum case that the fact that they've been playing every day pretty much, they just won a game. Maybe you like their momentum heading into a game tomorrow against the Astros because it's like a regular season game. You play one series, then you travel the next day and go play someone else. Maybe you like that for the New York Yankees, that the fact that they're not taking a rest day to recuperate. They're staying in the same mindset and trying to carry that momentum over. But I like the Houston Astros in this series. I think the Astros are going to win in 6 games or less. These two teams faced in 2019 and the 2017 ALCS. The Astros, I just think they have the Yankees number. They're going to have a fully healthy rotation rested and a normal rotation too. Meanwhile, the Yankees are going to be, kind of all over their place with that rotation, because now Nestor Cortez, he probably can't start to game 3, game 4, maybe, probably game 3. We saw him go out on short rest today, so I'm sure the Yankees wouldn't be upset to do that again. But this Astros team was a juggernaut in the regular season. They had the best record in the American League, but the Yankees did have the best run differential. So I'm glad to see that we're going to see the two best teams in the American League square off, which is different from the National League where we see two wildcard teams. But I like that dichotomy. We get two kind of cursed franchises that have really dealt with a lot of up and downs the last decade plus with their own playoff struggles, even struggles just getting to the postseason. I think there's a lot of fun narratives with those two underdogs in the National League and then the American League. It's again a rematch of the top dogs with the Astros winning the last two championship series matchups. I love these two matchups between both the National League Championship Series and the American League Championship Series. So this is going to be fun to watch, and I'm picking the Astros in 6 games or less over the New York Yankees. Now, one thing that is let me get this right. I'm trying to do a cool tease here. One thing that is more reliable than my postseason predictions is Roan, because remember, please, hold on. Let me start over. I keep reading the wrong thing. Okay, let me get this right for you guys. Let me get my Roan live read correct. One thing that is more reliable than my MLB postseason predictions is Roan, because if you don't like wearing dress shirts like me, you need to go get you a Roan dress shirt because it is always comfortable and always fits me the perfect way. The dress shirt was due for a radical reinvention, and Roan stepped up to the challenge. Roan's commuter shirt is the most comfortable, breathable, and flexible shirt known to man, and here's why. Mobility is everything. Roan's comfortable 4-way stretch fabric provides breathability and flexibility that leaves you free to enjoy what life throws your way, from your commute to work to your 18 holes of golf. It's time to feel confident with a wrinkle-free shirt without the hassle. With Roan's wrinkle-free release technology, wrinkles disappear as you stretch and wear the shirt. It's that easy. With Gold Fusion anti-odor technology, you'll be smelling fresh and clean all day long. And on top of that, Roan is 100% machine washable, so you can ditch the dry cleaner altogether. The commuter shirt can get you through any workday and straight into whatever comes next. Head to roan.com/lockedon and use promo code LOCKEDON to save 20% off your entire order. That's 20% off your entire order when you use RHONE.com/lockedon and use code LOCKEDON. It's time to find your corner office comfort. All right. Let's get back into the podcast and let's discuss the top 10 most disappointing D-backs from 2022. And like last time, we first got to start with our honorable mention. First honorable mention, I have JB Wendelken, who I don't even think made it to the end of the season before he got DFA'd. He had like a mid-4, low 5 ERA. I don't even know his exact stats because he was never good. I was never a big JB Wendelken guy. I didn't want him when we picked him up off waivers last year. I didn't think he was going to make a huge impact for the D-backs. I actually have his stats here, so I don't know why I'm acting like I don't know what his stats are. JB Wendelken, 5.28 ERA in 29 innings pitched, 6.5 strikeouts per 9, 4.3 walks per 9. JB Wendelken is not good, and I was glad to see that the D-backs cut him loose. Another honorable mention I have for top 10 most disappointing D-backs in 2022 is a guy who was a fan favorite amongst a lot of people, Humberto Castellanos. I was never a big Castellanos guy. A lot of people I saw on D-backs Twitter were like, let's get Castellanos in the rotation. Make him the number 5. I don't know why. I never saw it with Castellanos, and the numbers back up my eye test because he had a 5.68 ERA, 44 innings pitched, 6.5 strikeouts per 9, 10.2 hits per 9, a 1.398 whip, and he missed basically the last half of the season with injury. Maybe he'll battle for a spot in the rotation bullpen next year, but I'm just not a big Castellanos guy, and I just don't see it with him. And then the last honorable mention is kind of like a duo because I think these guys are basically the same person. Jordan Luplow and Cooper Hummel. Luplow, I thought, was going to be a nice platoon addition for the D-backs from at least a power standpoint. He did have 11 home runs, but he batted 176 with 634 OPS. Just provided nothing at the plate, just like Cooper Hummel, because funny thing is, both Jordan Luplow and Cooper Hummel both had a 176 average, and they both had a 274 OBP. Both of these guys did absolutely nothing for the D-backs offensively. Luplow had a couple big pinch hit home runs. That was about it. I remember Cooper Hummel had a couple big 8th inning shots to tie up the game or do something late in the clutch. But overall, both of these guys were not good for the D-backs this season, and I hated every time I saw them get an opportunity over, the young outfielders that the D-backs have. So those are my honorable mentions for most disappointing D-backs: JB Wendelken, Humberto Castellanos, and Luplo times Cooper Hummel. But now let's get into the top 10. And I guess I should say I came up with this ranking by basically evaluating how the player did in 2022 versus my expectation level for that player. Like, did this guy disappoint, but I knew he wasn't very good? Like someone like JB Wendelken, like he only gets an honorable mention because like I never thought JB Wendelken was that good. So I'm not surprised that he struggled. But were there some other players who I thought were at least going to have a good season that just did nothing for the D-backs? Let's get into it, because at number 10 on my top 10 most disappointing D-backs list, I have Geraldo Perdomo. And the reason he's only 10 is because, again, I didn't think he was going to become a superstar shortstop or an all-star level shortstop. I was just disappointed with the fact that he's basically a poor man's Nick Ahmed. I'm not sure if he's even better than a Nick Ahmed. That's why I call him the poor man's Nick Ahmed, because defensively, he's probably not as good as Nick Ahmed. And offensively, like, I wanted a little bit more from his bat. I didn't want him to become an all-star, but the fact that he's basically just Nick Ahmed offensively, maybe a little bit worse, that's not something that I really want from my shortstop, but that's okay. That's why he's only 10, because I didn't expect a whole lot from Perdomo. If we got a breakout season from Perdomo like we got from Jake McCarthy, that would have been huge gravy, and it would have recalibrated all my expectations for Perdomo. But coming into the season, my expectations I think were pretty realistic and pretty fair with Perdomo. Now, the silver lining is another reason why he's only number 10 on this list is I'm recording this on October 18th. Perdomo doesn't turn 23 years of age until October 22nd, so he's still super duper young, so there's still time for him to grow, progress, develop, and get better as a player. So I'm not writing Perdomo off just yet, but he definitely has to improve, because he was not very good against both righties and lefties in 2022. And for a guy like Torey Lovullo, he loves those cross matchups and getting the advantages, and Perdomo just had neither, because he wasn't good against righties or lefties. Now, to give a positive to Perdomo, he did show some signs of life with runners in scoring position, which is kind of surprising because he doesn't seem like your typical middle of the order bat that comes through with runners in scoring position. But 283 average and a 780 OPS with runners in scoring position, you'll more than take that from Perdomo. But those runners in scoring position more than likely didn't come in high leverage moments, because he had a below 600 OPS in high leverage moments, which is not good. And another reason, he didn't come through in high leverage moments is because Perdomo's numbers got worse every time he went through the order and faced the opposing starting pitcher. So like the first time he faced the starting pitcher versus the second time versus the third, his OPS dropped by basically like 100 points each time he had to face the opposing starter. So that's not very good for Perdomo. You don't like to get worse the more times you face somebody. Also, Perdomo's 44% ground ball rate to his 20% fly ball rate, like that's just not good enough. He's such a ground ball hitter. He has to pick the ball just off the ground more. He has to get a little bit more fly ball, get a little bit more line drive in him, because it's just too many ground balls for Perdomo. Thankfully, he doesn't seem to hit ground balls when there's runners in scoring position. He doesn't seem to be a big double play guy. I think he only had like 3 double plays the whole year. Like that wasn't his stick. Perdomo actually, if runners were in scoring position, either he was doing what he was doing with that 283 average, or you probably laid down a sacrifice bunt or a sacrifice fly, because I think he led the National League with 12 sacrifice hits. So that is, an area. If you can come through and sacrifice, that does add something to your team that is valuable. So I do like the fact that he was able to lay down so many sacrifice hits and help out his team. Batting average on balls in play for Perdomo, just not very good. 243 BABIP. Also, just mediocre hard contact stats. Basically, bottom 3. He was bottom 3 percentage in a lot of hard contact stats. Does that make sense? He was in the bottom 3%. That's how I'm supposed to say. He was in the bottom 3% of the entire Major League Baseball in hard contact percentage and most expected stats. So the numbers tell you there's just not much power or expected power with this guy. His barrel percentage was only at 2% in 2022. Now, he does do a good job of making contact with the ball, 80% contact percentage, but that's basically what he is. He's a slap hitter, ground ball hitter. He can hit the ball kind of hard on the ground, but once it starts to elevate, a ball's not going very far. Like it took a while for Geraldo Perdomo to hit his first home run of the season, right? Like, if you remember, we were doing predictions, like we were like 3 weeks, a month into the season, and we were like, all right, this is going to be the weekend that Perdomo hits his first home run, because it just felt like it took such a long time for him to do it. And one reason could be because he just had no chance against breaking balls and fastballs. Like, he's solid against the off-speed pitch, but a breaking ball or a fastball, you can just get by Perdomo and fool him kind of easily. Now, for next season, if I had to give a reason why I wouldn't be too upset to see him in the lineup again, is because Nick Ahmed coming off injury. He's old. At least Perdomo's young. Like I said, he's not even 23 yet. And his speed could at least be an asset. Stole 9 stolen bases this year. And if he could get on base a little bit more next year, he could be a 15 stolen base guy. So Perdomo, you have a lot of areas to improve in. You come in at number 10 on top 10 most disappointing D-backs, but it's okay. My expectations for you entering the season were pretty low. So even though you made this list, you weren't a total disappointment to me, Geraldo Perdomo. Now, if you want to bet on who's going to be number 9 on my list, you need to head to betonline.net, because, wait 1 second. No. I take that back. You are not heading to betonline.net, because if you're hungry, you need to head to Built Bar. Sorry, I thought I had a different add up. You need to head to Built Bar, because I just came from the gym, and guess what I had post the gym to get the protein fuel intake I needed? I had me a Built Bar, because right now, Built Bar has these thing called puffs, which are just stupid delicious. They're protein bars, but they're infused with marshmallow as well, plus the protein, plus covered in 100% chocolate, soft and easy to chew. And the reason why I love Built Bar is because, look, I'm a health conscious guy. Like I just said, I came back from the gym, but my issue is I have a sweet tooth. I love to eat candy. I love to eat junk food, but it's okay because Built Bar tricks me. I think that I'm eating a candy bar when in reality, I'm actually eating a protein bar that's low in calorie, low in sugar, high in protein, high in fiber, great for that keto diet. So if you want your own Built Bar, just go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKEDON15. You'll get 15% off your next order. Promo code LOCKEDON15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right. Let's get back into the podcast, and let's discuss who checks in at number 9 on our top 10 most disappointing D-backs from, the 2022 season. I had to get a burp in before I said that. Checking in at number 9, we got Noah Ramirez for the D-backs. And again, Noah Ramirez didn't even finish this season with the D-backs, but I think that kind of plays into my point as to why he's on this list, because if you remember, Noah Ramirez last year was a revelation for the D-backs in the bullpen. We were like, yes, we finally got someone that we could pull out the bullpen and kind of trust and think is reliable and maybe could be in the bullpen next season. This was what we were saying in 2021. We were like, Noah Ramirez, lock it in. He's going to be a solid bullpen guy in 2022, because last year, 2.76 ERA and 32.2 innings pitched, a .888 whip. Again, .888. If that's not lucky triple eights, I don't know what is. But this season with the D-backs in 2022, Noah Ramirez was just flat out bad. A 5.22 ERA, 1.420 whip, and 50+ innings pitched. Noah Ramirez was not good for the D-backs, which is so sad to see, because he was someone that I basically penciled in as a pretty reliable bullpen reliever for the D-backs this season. I thought he was going to be one of the go-to relievers for the D-backs, and at one point during the season he was, and then it all fell apart for Noah Ramirez, because let's look at some of these numbers. We know Torey Lovullo loves the cross matchups, as I always talk about, but Noah Ramirez, another guy, 860 OPS allowed to lefties, 760 OPS allowed to righties. Not great numbers, guys. Not great, Noah Ramirez. Now, one thing that was kind of interesting with Noah Ramirez, he was kind of like this year's version of Blake Snell for the D-backs. 3.23 ERA at home. Solid. You'll take that every time. If his ERA on the season was 3.23, guess what? Noah Ramirez would probably be getting a contract extension with the D-backs right now. But on the road, Noah Ramirez, 8.38 ERA on the road. Just not good at all on the road. He was not trustworthy on the road. I don't know why that is. Did he like pitching better at Chase Field? Did he have his girlfriend, in Arizona, his wife in Arizona, that, it was easier for him to come home, feel comfy, and his kids? I don't know what it was for Noah Ramirez. Did he just put more pressure on himself on the road? Could he not handle opposing fans booing him? I don't know what it is, why some players have such large discrepancy in home versus road splits, but Noah Ramirez was one of those guys this year. Noah Ramirez also against the top of the order was not very good. The first two batters in an opposing team's lineup had over a 900 OPS against Ramirez. So if he was coming in a high leverage moment and he was facing the top of the order, those inherited runners were probably scoring in that situation. And opposing batters, not only were the top of the order good against Noah Ramirez, well, if you swung at his first pitch, if you swung at the first pitch you saw from Noah Ramirez, you also saw great success because those players had a 292 average and a 944 OPS against Noah Ramirez when they swung at the first pitch that they saw for Noah Ramirez. So if you're at the top of the lineup, if you're leading off against Noah Ramirez, you better swing at that first pitch because basically your OPS is going to be like 1,500 if you're that guy. So that's very interesting to see, and it's not very good. The top of the lineup is the toughest part of the lineup. Those are the table setters. Those are the guys that are really good at getting on base and just making havoc usually on the bases, creating chaos. So the fact that Noah Ramirez couldn't keep those guys off the bases isn't good. Also not good when he allows a 948 OPS with 2 outs. Guess what? You can't take that. 2 outs is when your reliever is supposed to shut down the inning. Noah Ramirez was shutting down no innings with 2 outs. I hate seeing leads by the opposing teams get extended with 2 outs. I always talk about my pet peeves. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. 2-out runs being scored by the opponent just makes me throw up in my mouth. Also, 900 OPS allowed with runners in scoring position need to come through in those moments as well. And you guys know I love this stat. You know when I give you the 2-out stats and the runners in scoring position stat, you know what stats come next. How about 2 outs and runners in scoring position? This is the pet peeve. If there's a man on second, but there's 2 outs on board, you better get out of that inning. And more than likely, Noah Ramirez could not. A 1033 OPS allowed with 2 outs and runners in scoring position. His extra base hit percentage more than doubled from last year. He was just giving up so much more harder contact. His batting average on balls in play went from 188 last year to 288 this year, which is just insane. So basically, opposing batters had it was basically like almost a 300 average against Noah Ramirez. The hard contact stats were kind of normal against Noah Ramirez, which is kind of shocking because we would feel with more extra base hits given up and just more times players are coming through against Noah Ramirez, you would feel like maybe the hard contact was a lot worse this season. But no, the hard contact stats are pretty much aligned with the way he did last year. So it's even more mind-boggling that he wasn't good this year. How about this? His curveball was absolutely crushed this season, which is not good to see because his curveball was his second most used pitch. 300 average and 611 slugging allowed on his curveball. Just got destroyed whenever he tried to throw that pitch. I thought Noah Ramirez was going to be a bright spot in the bullpen this year after what we saw last year, and considering hit a 1.8 ERA in the first month of the season, but it quickly fell off for Noah Ramirez. And by the end of the year, Noah Ramirez was not able to finish the season with the Dbacks, and he was just another cog in part of the terrible Dbacks bullpen in 2022. Another reason why the Dbacks bullpen was terrible this season is because of Noah Ramirez. So Mike Hazen, we've talked about a lot. We know what your homework is this offseason. Go revamp this bullpen because this team is not far away from competing, and it has to start with the bullpen because once we get the bullpen right, I think everything else will fall in place for this Dbacks team. So Mike Hazen, please complete that homework assignment. Now, that's it for this edition of the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. Thank you to everyone who tuned into today's edition of the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. Come back tomorrow for more Diamondbacks news coverage insight. Thank you to everyone for making Locked on Diamondbacks your first listen every day. Now go check out Locked on MLB with my pal Sully Baseball, who you hear every Monday. Go check out his podcast, Walking Baseball Encyclopedia and Historian. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy. Deuces.